What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the shelf. And as you can tell, a little bit of a different setup today, and that's because it is once again time to downsize the collection. Now, as you might be able to tell, the collection is getting pretty big. Not a lot of empty space on these shelves. I've recently got my copy of Nosferatu here, 4K, and had a little bit of a problem. There's nowhere to put it. There's no room on the shelf. You see, like, when I need to start putting movies, like, on top of other movies, that's an issue. So I've picked out, like, 9 movies today that we're gonna get rid of. And we're gonna put them in the either eBay or donation pile. Just to get out ahead of it, I am gonna most likely repeat myself a lot. And the number one thing that I'm gonna repeat is, when am I gonna watch this? I haven't watched it in a long time, and I don't plan on watching it anytime in the future. So, first movie that we got to talk about is Crazy Stupid Love. Now, the thing I want to drive home with all these movies we're going to talk about today, including this one, is that, yeah, I do like these movies, otherwise they wouldn't be in my collection still. But the fact remains that, and this is something that I maintain, and I truly believe this, you don't need to own movies that you just like. You can, and you're certainly, you know, there's nothing stopping you from doing so. But my situation has made it so that I really need to start asking the hard questions and saying, yeah, this is a movie I like, but do I love it? The fact of the matter is, I can't tell you the last time I watched this. I could probably pull it up on my Letterboxd profile and tell you, but I personally cannot remember when I watched this last. And although it is a movie that I enjoy, I have not been struck by the inspiration to watch this probably since I've owned it. I'll tell you something right now. This disc has never been watched. I don't know if you're getting that. It's immaculate. I mean, it's never been put in the player. This is probably a movie I watched for the first time, like on a streamer or something. And then, like, you know, this is definitely a Dollar General purchase. I used to buy a lot of movies from Dollar General, and I found that the pattern has been so that the Dollar General titles are usually the ones that I wind up getting rid of, oddly enough. That's not to say that I haven't kept stuff from Dollar General, but there is definitely an observable pattern that I've noticed. So yeah, like, at best, this is like a 3.5 out of 5-star movie for me, and I just don't need to own that. And if I ever, for some reason, am struck by the unshakable desire to rewatch this movie, I'm sure I'll be able to find it on a streamer somewhere. So the space that it's taking up on the shelf is not worth the convenience of owning this particular movie. And that's going to be something that I'll be able to say about all of these that we're talking about today. So, Crazy Stupid Love, it's not a bad movie, but it's not shelf-worthy. And that's the kind of criteria that I need to start holding myself towards. Is something shelf-worthy? Is it collection-worthy? All right, next up is Disturbing Behavior. So this is kind of like a Scream knockoff. That term has a negative connotation to it, but the fact of the matter is that after Scream came out, you had a slew of these things. Faculty, Urban Legend, Valentine, Disturbing Behavior. I remember I got excited to pick this one up because I do like the MVD Rewind collection, and you know, it's got a cool little new slipcover, and it came with a poster that's actually on my wall right here. You can't see it, but the reality is I don't even really like this movie all that much. It's fine, it's cool, but it feels like the great value version of The Faculty, and The Faculty in and of itself is a movie that I don't even own, but I do like that movie more than this one, which is sort of a conundrum in and of itself. But yeah, this was a one-time watch when it came out. Haven't felt the desire to watch it since, and I most likely never will again. So I feel like I could probably sell this one, make close to what I paid for it back. I don't know if this thing's like slipcovers out of print or something like that, but yeah, this will definitely be getting sold on eBay. All right, next up is Donnie Brasco. People really like this movie. It's cool because you've got the Pacino character, and it's sort of reminiscent of all the various, you know, crime movies that he's done, and Johnny Depp has actually gone on to do other crime movies like Black Mass and stuff. So, but at the end of the day, if I'm ever in the mood to watch like a crime movie, I will most likely go to Goodfellas or The Godfather or something like that. Like, Donnie Brasco just does not spring to mind immediately. And this is another one that I probably watched one time, and ever since it's just been sitting on the shelf taking up space. So this one's definitely going in the pile. And you see this, folks? This is what we like to see right here. Empty space. I mean, come on, you can't put a price on that. All right, this is one that I've never felt more certain I will never watch again. Earth Girls Are Easy. First of all, I will just say, I love the Vestron Video line and how inexpensive their movies are, you know, relative to like their packaging and the features within. It's just a great value, and if this is a movie you like, then look no further. But I bought this on a blind buy back when I was doing that sort of thing, and I just recently, like within the past couple weeks, actually watched it, and yeah, I will never watch this again. It was not my thing, but that's the nature of the beast when you're blind buying stuff. Fun movie, I can understand the appeal, but for me, this is very 80s in all the worst ways. And that is a possible thing, but that is a thing. Like, that can happen. You know, just because something is 80s doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. And this is, look no further for an example of that. The one thing that you might want to check this movie out for is Gina Davis. It's fun to see Jim Carrey and Jeff Goldblum and Damon Wayans, but it's just really bizarre and irreverent, and yeah, just not something I'll ever watch again. So eBay it is. I actually remembered I have a friend who actually really likes this movie, so I'm actually just going to give this to her, because I would much rather this go to someone who really likes it, as opposed to me just keeping it for no other reason than I spent money on it. Next up, we have Garden State. You know, this movie's fine. It's not bad. I feel like at the time this came out, this would have been considered like an art film almost, or like a really thoughtful, introspective look at like depression and stuff like that. And while it is those things, I suppose, it just hasn't aged the best. And, you know, on rewatch, I didn't find it to be nearly as, you know, impactful as I did whenever I saw it, you know, years and years ago. So, and again, I just never, and I know deep down, like, that I'm never going to want to be in the mood to watch this again. And that's the thing that a lot of collectors have a hard time, like, accepting, because people like to spend money on things, and then I feel like we're almost locked into this pact of like, okay, I spent money on this, therefore I have to convince myself that it was worth the money that I spent. And it's a hard thing to sort of unlearn, but I feel like once you do, and you kind of free yourself of those shackles of that financial investment, you know, and that's not to say you can't recoup some of your money. This, I might have spent $4 or $5 on, so I'm going to have to just kind of eat the loss on this one. And I'm okay with that. But, you know, it's just a thing that we need to be more aware of, I think. All right, next up is Ghost Ship. This is a movie that I feel like when people talk about this movie, they almost talk about it as if it's a lot better than it actually is. There's a lot of like, there's this narrative around this movie that it's propped up by a really awesome opening kill. And it's like a famous kill. It's very iconic, very memorable. But then the rest of the movie it fails to ever come close to living up to the heights of that opening. And I feel like people like the idea of this movie more than the actual movie itself. And that's been the case with me. But I'll tell you what, man, in the entire time I've owned this, I can tell you I've never actually put it in the player. And that might sound crazy to some of you, but the reality is that when I first started getting into collecting, I was buying all sorts of shit. And I liked the idea of having a big collection. And I did that by filling it out with titles that I wasn't in love with. And this is absolutely one of them. And I deluded myself into thinking that this was a better movie and that I liked it more than it actually is, or than I actually liked it. If that makes any sense. Yeah, I feel pretty okay with getting rid of this one. Like, I know people love packaging and stuff. I understand that. As crazy as it sounds, I feel like I held on to this for as long as I have because I love the way that the blue of the cover like blends into the blue of the Blu-ray case. If you're a collector, that might not sound super crazy to you, but like, I don't know, I kind of just liked the way it looks, and makes no sense because I don't actually watch the movie. And 90% of the time, 99% of the time, this is all I see. That's all we see is spines. 90% of the time we look at spines. So like, it's just a stupid reason to keep something around. So Ghost Ship is adios. Next up, we got another Warner Archive title. I did a previous video where I did another version of what I'm doing right now, and I got rid of a lot of Warner Archive titles, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that this is another Warner Archive title that has got to go. And that is The Green Slime. This is a 1968 like sci-fi B movie about a green slime that, you know, invades some, I think it's like a space station. Yeah, it's a space station. I watched this once, and again, it was a case of I liked the idea of the movie more than I actually liked the movie. And it was cool. Like, I'm glad I watched it, and it's a unique little piece of history. But as much as I would like to consider fancy myself like an archivist, and like I'm curating a collection that, you know, will endure and will maybe be passed down to my kids or something like that, the reality is that I'm never going to watch The Green Slime again, and I doubt my future kid is going to want to watch The Green Slime. He might watch it once, but then he'll probably just get rid of it too. So it's probably better to just get rid of The Green Slime now and save my son that headache in the future. All right, next up we have Heathers. This one might ruffle some feathers, but I just don't really like this movie as much as I thought I would. And it seems like it would be right up my alley. Like, it's this pitch black comedy about like teens and cliques and stuff, which is pretty progressive because I feel like we saw some of these themes echoed in much later years with movies like Mean Girls and Jennifer's Body. I don't know, for some reason this just doesn't vibe with me, and I just don't really mess with this movie as much as on paper you might expect me to. I remember I first tried to watch this movie on Netflix, never even finished it, and then I bought this because I thought it was a cool steelbook, and this was back when Best Buy still sold movies, so back then I was more liable to just walk in and leave with like a stack of 5 or 6 Blu-rays. Not the case anymore. Even if Best Buy was still selling movies, I'd like to think that I still wouldn't be doing that sort of thing. But the fact remains that I eventually did finish this movie, and yeah, it's just fine. I don't dislike it, but I don't love it, and I certainly don't like it enough to hang on to it. So I actually think that the steelbook goes for some money. So I'm going to try to list this one on eBay and clear up some space on the shelf. All right, last title we have to talk about is Murder Rock. This is a Lucio Fulci. Basically, this is like a Lucio Fulci version of Suspiria, but it's set in New York City, and it focuses on like dancers and not like ballerinas. And oh, the other difference is that it's not very good. That's the main thing I forgot to include. Yeah, I watched this once. I damn near slept through it. I found it very boring. You know, and I do enjoy the films of Lucio Fulci, but I just didn't really love this one. And so I'm not the kind of person who's like, I need to own as many Lucio Fulci movies as I can because I happen to really like a handful of them. But yeah, like I don't subscribe to that idea. If I don't like a movie, then I don't need to keep it just because it's a filmmaker who's done movies that I do like. And that's no shade to people who do collect that way. You can do whatever you like, but for me, it's just not how I'm going to do things going forward. So, to the pile it goes. So, we got a big pile here, 9 movies that are all going to either eBay or donated to the local library or donated to friends. I'm not sure yet, but you know, it's nice. It feels good to get rid of things. I'm not someone who's in a position anymore where I feel the need to just have a lot of stuff. If anything, I want to have less stuff. I want to only have the things that are important to me. And as much as I, you know, enjoy some of these movies and, you know, I certainly don't hate any of these, the fact is that I just don't need to own these anymore. And even though it's a very small percentage of my overall collection, just being able to get these off my shelf in the hands of someone who will like them a lot more than me, and maybe even get a couple more bucks back in my pocket for my troubles, it just makes it worth it. They're not worth the space that they're taking up to me anymore. All right, guys, so that's it. That is this episode of Downsizing My Collection. I guess this is a series now. This is unofficially episode 2. And I'll try to do these, you know, every couple months as I see fit. And eventually just get my collection down to a place where I feel like I'm really happy with it. Eventually I'm going to have to move at some point. No idea when. And when that time comes, I'd rather have less stuff to put in totes and stuff like that. So I'm sure some of you out there who are collectors who have moved before can relate to that. All right, guys, so with that being said, please like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. We talk about new movies, old movies, physical media, and horror movies in general. What are some criteria that you use when deciding what to keep and what to get rid of? I'd be very curious to know. The psychology of the average collector varies from person to person, and I find it very fascinating, so leave those comments down in the comment section. And with all that being said, please take care and watch more movies.